every manufacturer of a vehicle has a story, and every vehicle for sure has a story. And today's show, we're talking about the classic car restoration, sort of a beginner's journey and sort of basic tips. You, right now, have one. You want to get started. You've got a couple little dollars put together, and maybe it doesn't run, and you've got a little rust. And so to help us out navigate some of these basics for these restoration projects, we've got Ken Vella. Ken Vella, Wicked Customs out of Huntington Beach, actually a show contributor. Ken Vella, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, how are you? Happy to be on.
Yeah, man. I got excited because Judy acquired this vehicle, and she's out of Huntington Beach. And tell us the story with Judy. And of course, we're going to get her on here down the show in a little bit to get her story. How did you sort of sync up? Because I think it's important for people to know, how do you find someone to restore a ride? Let's start with that.
Yeah, that's the biggest hurdle, is trying to find somebody that you can trust, and because when a lot of these projects you're going into kind of blind, so to speak, and you really don't know the ins and outs, and you have to put in a lot of trust in that person you choose. And that's very intimidating. How do you,
I mean, I know word of mouth is good. I mean, most people, I mean, it's a basic question, but I want to talk to those out there that are not in the automotive network. They haven't been to too many car shows. They're just getting started. What's your recommendation? I want to restore a vehicle right now. I'm not too sure about where to go. How would I start that procedure?
I think the biggest tool that we all have right now is the internet. Research. It's all I can tell you is you can never do enough research searching out the brand, the model, everything about it, parts availability, what is out there, sources like eBay, and depending on what vehicle that you're getting into also too, if you don't know too much about the vehicle, let's say it is a Packard, being that we're talking about Packards, check into the Packard Club and look at some of the sites and some of the threads that these groups are talking about different vehicles, and do some research in that, and maybe just even join in a car club. Even if you don't have a car, you can still join car clubs and kind of mingle and ask questions and that sort of thing.
That's not frowned upon, though, if you don't have the actual car and to be part of the club. Isn't that?
Good question.
Car culture car people really don't do that, but I don't know.
Some may feel intimidated, but Ken, I think most car clubs don't really care. Just show up.
Yeah, we're all like-minded people. I mean, if we're into any vehicles or anything with wheels on it or a motor, and you want to talk and learn, they pretty much have open arms. I know in back in the day it wasn't so I wouldn't say as friendly, but things have changed so much, especially with the rat rods coming in and beginners and people who are very interested, and especially into the Packard industry, being that it's so old and it's kind of losing its ground as far as today's type of vehicles and ownership. So it's kind of rare to find the groups to learn about these things, and they welcome new people into. If you're excited about a vehicle and it's a club, they're more than happy to share.
You said
help you.
You said something, Ken.
Sure.
That really stuck with me, and I think will stick with a lot of folks just starting on their journey of restoration. Mm-hmm. One of the things they can do as a piece of homework is, all right, I've got this eclectic ride. Let's say it's not a 57 Chevy Bel Air. It's not a commonplace for parts, but researching availability of parts. Maybe that's a question in a car club you can, gather and decide, because that affects cost. I mean, downtime is downtime with restoration, but I imagine it may exceed your budget if you got a rarity for parts on a particular vehicle that you want to purchase. That's going to send it through the roof if it's rare.
Well, definitely. It's very hard to find, and if you do find it, you'll find a new old stock item, NOS, that is the price is outrageous. You'll be lucky to find something that's used, but very scarce. And under those conditions, it's really tough. And then to kind of push you into the area of pulling, let's say, a water pump and having that specific water pump rebuilt, because it's not something you can go to O'Reilly's or Napa, which actually is a good source for older vehicles. But a lot of these parts are not accessible anymore, and now you have to find a rebuilder in order to rebuild these, so whether it's the starter, the generator, the carburetor, and like I said, even water pumps and things like that. You have to utilize the parts that you do have. And sometimes these vehicles don't, the parts are missing. So again, to me, is research is your best tool to find out what's out there, learn everything about it, and see if this is something that you can pull off.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And just a footnote, just so you people know, the media, it may have been some fake news back in the day going on, because the media actually, and some would say this was towards the end of the demise of Packard, did literally call that a pregnant elephant and a bathtub.
No.
Those were the nicknames given because, again, Ken, of course, Cadillac came onto the scene strong, and ultimately the Packard went goodnight, Charlie.
Yeah, a lot of with the Packard industry is they were built so well that the price point on building these things were so expensive, and they did not want to cut costs in any way and still build a solid thing. So they pretty much ran themselves out of business as far as cost-wise, especially when they took over Studebaker. That was actually a company that was kind of going under as well. So they tried to be very
well, Studebaker, I think, was probably looking for a win in their pocket. They knew that they had this luxury line, and they
come together, and build and survive. Help each other out and survive it.
Right.
But unfortunately, we know the demise of that. All
right, so I'm out in a cornfield in Iowa. I found my beauty. She's sitting there. She's got some weeds coming up through it. Whatever vehicle that is, we'll leave that to the imagination. What can I do? And I know that this is a very broad question for our audience, but let's say that the engine is running and I'm getting ready to drive it. Let's say it drove. It may have a little hesitation in the transmission. I'm like, okay, maybe it needs a transmission. Engine's not knocking. What can I do from there as my steps initially looking at this vehicle? And more importantly, where do I say, okay, stop the presses, that is not a buy?
Yeah, there's so many factors. One, as far as your automotive knowledge, and then your access to someone to be able to work on the vehicle. And again, it falls into the realm of having the parts affordable and plentiful. But if it's already running, I mean, that's already a good sign.
That is a good sign. That may have been an easy question for you. That's okay. Next up, we'll do it like Susie. Susie's got hers. I told her, just paint her, put some fuzzy dice. Don't worry about it. It runs okay. If one cylinder's missing, it's okay. Just get out there with a good paint.
We have a 58 Chevy, and it doesn't have power steering, power brake, because Frank's like, paint it, make it look pretty.
That's it, because she's not going to Barrett Jackson with this thing. She just wants to roll down to the supermarket with a nice hoopty.
And that's the other thing, too, is what are your plans for this vehicle? And a lot of times what happens is the vehicle is going to tell you what it's going to be. And it's a lot of it is because of the value, the intrinsic value of the whole vehicle. Let's say, for instance, this Packard, we would need over $100,000 to put into this vehicle to make it correct, a 100-point correct car. Is the value there? We look at what are they going for? What can you pick up? Let's say in the best condition. You can't get $100,000 for that car. You will never get your money back out of it. Unless it's a sentimental value, then that's something else. That's totally different.
Sure, yeah.
In this aspect of it, let's get it running. Let's get it into the survivor class area and fix the important things, the safety things, the brakes, the suspension, and make it safe and roadworthy. 100%, and that may be just it. And leave the patina, polish it up a little bit, and that's going to be the story. You just rescued a beautiful vehicle, but it's not worth putting in a lot of money. So it's a lot of research. I can't stress enough to do the research. Get out there and talk to your fellow car people, and figure out if it's right for you.
Yeah.
And it's hard to walk away from projects. I mean, you fall in love with it, but you have to really look at it realistically because it could bite you.
Yeah. So you said something important as I posed to you that I'm out there assuming that I don't know anything. I mean, I know some things. Most people that have a vehicle that they're going to restore, they've done their research. But when it comes to the mechanical inspection, no matter how good my eye is as sort of Joe or Jill buyer, a pre-purchase would be in order. A pre-purchase inspection.
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely recommend it, even if it costs you $500 to have somebody come out there and go through it very thorough, because it could save you. A perfect example is I was getting ready to restore a 63 Mercedes 220, and it needed a full restoration completely. It hadn't ran in 20 years. We got it started. It was pushing antifreeze out of the two rear cylinders. This was a 4-cylinder. As it was running, it was still spraying out water. So what does that tell you? So now we're going to go into the engine is damaged. What is it going to cost to fix that engine? Well, it came out to everything over $100,000 when the vehicle was only worth $12,000 to $20,000 in good, perfect condition. So it makes no sense. And the hardest thing for me was to tell my client that this is what's going on, but we're going to save you. Let's not do this. We're going to get you into.
Wow.
And I found some vehicles.
That's save a day, Ken. That's save a day, because you talk about cost. I think that's the biggest factor for those of you listening that, you do have to. Okay, so I've got a budget. You kind of, most folks will research what they're getting involved in. And we all want to protect our money and make sure we're not upside down. But many restorations naturally just kind of
add up.
I mean, we all have seen the advertisements, $70,000 in a build, only asking $30,000.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so in order to keep you guys from doing that, hey, you know what? If it's $500 and you're close, you've done your homework and you just need to really ask a Ken Vella or someone in the arena for that. And I will add here locally, we'll do that for you. And
perfect. Yeah.
we do the classic car inspections. And so if you're listening, you could just give us a call at the garage. That's something worthy. We're fair. Before we get into, of course, Judy, if you guys are just catching the show, Judy, gal out of Huntington Beach, sweetheart of a gal, had her eyes on this, I believe, and we're going to get her story. She's going to be joining us. But I want you guys to stay tuned. We're going to talk more about rust, but before we hit the break, Ken, I got to tell you, you got to be nervous about some of the vehicles that folks have had higher expectations than normal. We all do. Like, we've saved our money. We've really got our eyes on this. I mean, we've been flipping through the internet and magazines, and we're excited. We've told our kids and our spouses, I'm getting this 58. It's going to happen. But then you come along as someone that's doing this pre-purchase. That's got to be difficult to tell someone that this sale of a vehicle is not worthy. What makes that happen, and how do you handle that with clients that you may have?
Yeah, the biggest thing is educating your clients, going through and spending the time and explaining the process and the reasons why this is going on, and actually, spending time with them as you're going through it.
When you say spend time, I want to interject. You're talking about a good inspection. Not only will point out, okay, this, that, and the, but you're giving price points as well, because that to me would be justify. Gotcha. Yeah.
Yes, and then, like I said, with the internet, it's great because right then you can pull up. Let's say you're looking at the vehicle, and right away it's missing a carburetor or whatever, or something needs to be rebuilt. You can go in and do a quick search and see what the availability is, if there's anything out there, and kind of price points to get an idea. So that, again, research and that the internet tool is it's amazing, and it will help you out tremendously. And then you can even look at the values of vehicles. What's a vehicle that's at its 100-point best to its 0-point worst, and get a basic guideline as far as the right price to pay as well.
Yeah. If you're just joining us, we got Ken Vella. I want you guys to get on over to kenvellamc.com. If you anywhere in the country, if you've got a project build, he is available. He'll consult with you over the phone, and you just never know. Ken does an amazing job with builds. I want to dive into the subject of rust, because a lot of people get that, I mean, most people will look deep into the rust, but I want to talk about how rust can be overcome where it needs to be, without a full-on rotisserie restoration. Stay tuned. Branch Nation, next.
Baby, don't you do it. Don't do it, baby.
Bolton Technologies Automotive Software Solutions. Auto repair shops that have Bolton Technologies software provide customer vehicle condition reports, including photos and text, real-time digital reports, multi-point inspections, estimates, and repair information at your fingertips. Info at boltontechnology.com.
Funding for Wrench Nation Car Talk brought to you by Anytime Auto Glass, a family-owned full-service windshield replacement and repair company with a focus on hard work, integrity, and providing a no-hassle professional service for their windshield and vehicle tint clients. AnytimeAutoGlassAZ.com or call 480-430-4597. Anytime Auto Glass. Welcome back, Wrench Nation. Hanging out with you guys. Get on a wrenchnation.tv. We've got over 200 shows on there. There'll be a show for each one of you. We guarantee it. And thank you if you're hanging out with us on the podcast. On today's show, we're covering sort of the beginner's journey about a classic ride, your dream hoopty you've been eyeballing, or it's sitting in the driveway and all the family members, you guys know how that is. When are you going to get to it? You know, that sort of thing. And now you've started that journey. And so to help us out, we've got Ken Vella of Wicked Customs. Ken, welcome back.
I am here.
Right on. Welcome back. For our audience, Ken Vella of Wicked Customs, he's got dozens of sort of restoration rides from, boy, you name it. The Wicked 356 Porsche, which can be seen at museums throughout Southern California, which is really awesome. And, you know, Ken, we talked about Judy Ann's Packard and that whole journey. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that off air we talked about was that, you know, this was going to need more work. And in fact, she had been quoted like six figures, really, to do this. Yeah. And you came in heart of gold with your talent. And you were able to eyeball areas that you weren't necessarily going to cut corners on, but the whole gig was safe and reliable for her to actually drive that and have a respectable drive. One of those things could be rust. Did you encounter the rust situation on that ride?
Well, being from Nebraska originally, they put salt on the roads. And that's another thing, too, as far as doing research on what states are doing that. And depending on how it was driven, the vehicle will tell you. Obviously, if it's a rust area, then you're going to want to check out the frame, pretty much everything. Don't let it scare you too much. I know, especially out here in California and Arizona, it's pretty much like surface rust. But
it is. A lot of folks, here in Arizona for sure, and we've seen our fair share of rides from the Midwest or Northeast. So where do I stay away from? Somebody's looking at a ride right now, and, you know, they may be looking at a deal. Where does that deal go wrong? Where does rust turn into buku money? Where's that be a problem at?
Well, the first would be the frame. If the frame is, I mean, anything can be repaired, but it depends on the value and your budget and that, and, you know, and the actual vehicle that you pick. But primarily the frame damage. A lot of repair panels are made these days that you can fix holes in the fenders or find used fenders. But again, research and internet searching these things out, depending and doing your homework, diligent homework on that. But yeah, rust is a kind of a scary thing. A lot of cars have been restored, not in the professional way, whether they're putting panels in by rivets, whether they're stuffing it with newspaper or fiberglass or whatever. I've seen some pretty crazy things, but and a lot of these things you can't see, so you have to really look at these areas, the problem areas, and then when you do the research, also too, certain vehicles have certain characteristics to watch out for, and a lot of these groups that you can get on and see the research on it, or the conversations that they've had and their trials and tribulations and things.
Yeah.
So if there aren't any replacement parts, can you actually like weld fabricate it?
Yeah, I mean, you can make, as Ken, you can't technically make a water pump.
That's true.
Panels,
but we know somebody who can 3D print.
Well, that's if you've got then you big money. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be that would be the only part, and then it's like, okay, now we have other parts to do too, and obviously that's really going to add up. So hopefully all the parts are there, and if you cannot find a replacement for these things, they can be rebuilt. Even the generators, the alternators, water pumps, obviously carburetors can be done, master cylinders, pretty much much. But that's the biggest thing. If they're hard to find, and these parts are on the car itself, that's a good starting point. Then you have to find a good, solid rebuilder for these things. And a lot of times they require cores, or you can buy them outright. And sometimes you can't find these things at all. So it's tricky.
So no doubt, a part of your assessment, people, you definitely want to get on the side of parts. I mean, part of that auto, you're hanging out with a car club for the first time. A lot of my youngsters out there just getting started. I don't care if it's a future classic. Let's say you guys are looking at a Toyota Supra. And just because we're talking about a Packard, this all comes into that. That Supra, those are hard to find. You're looking for a mid-'80s, and now you've got one, and it's up in North Dakota. Pre-purchase inspection. If you fly out, find a local individual. And again, you can call us at the garage or reach out to Ken Vella. We've got folks all over the country. It is worthy of dropping, whatever, $300 to $500 for an individual, guy or gal, to come out that knows what they're doing, because it will eat your lunch. And then sometimes there is no point of return. If you we had somebody text us about this whole parts thing. Can you make parts? Well, you can fabricate. Fabrication is huge. That's out there. That can be costly depending on what you're looking at and how far you want to go with the right type of fabrication. I mean, I can fabricate a piece of sheet metal in my home garage and it'll go on, but it's not a Ken Vella fabrication or a Kindigit fabrication, and so it really isn't. And I think parts is important. A lot of us don't think about that. We get knee deep in the project, and here's the builder calling us saying, "Oh man, sorry, it's nowhere to be found." And we checked everywhere.
Yeah.
We even checked India. That's a problem, and that's a bad day, because some of you guys are so close to a build. And man, if only I researched all the parts and a good pre-purchase inspector, good mechanic. Ken, you're going to tell people, hey, this Packard, they were notorious for having whatever part. It could be the missing rear seat. Well, seat's probably a bad example, but whatever, a fuel pump or whatever have you, that can be a problem.
Well, yeah, and in particular to this car, and actually these rules apply to anything, like you had mentioned, the Supra. I just acquired a Subaru Brat, 1980 first generation.
Oh, I love those.
The Brat.
Yeah, I couldn't find those, especially because they were in salty areas and that sort of thing. But it applies to all of them. That is the thing. And it depending on what you want to do with the vehicle, a lot of times you can fabricate parts, and if you're not worried about how it looks, or you can even get the dimensions of certain parts and cross-reference other parts and get something that's close and modify it. That all can be done, but if you're looking for a 100-point restoration that has to look spot on and be period correct, then that's when you run into issues. So
it's not going to be concourse level. Yeah.
Right.
I don't want anybody to think that I didn't know what I was talking about. As far as the welding fabrication, I was talking about like the floorboards. That's what I was talking about.
Oh yeah, like
not
a whole
parts. Yes.
Yeah, no, I know. We're just being silly with
I
it.
got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, then it goes into pattern making, and then pouring molds with cast iron and redeveloping the product and all that other stuff, which can be done, but we're talking a lot of money.
Yeah, let me ask you this: are you seeing? I know that 3D auto printing. We had Melanie Lang on the show number 196. She's co-founder of Form Alloy out in California, and they're doing, volume 3D printing of auto parts. Are you seeing in the classic car restoration market? And I know this is bigger money. But are you seeing 3D printing? Like, if I can't find that water pump, are folks 3D printing their water pumps?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
They are. That's
nice.
All right, well, that's there.
That's the alternative way to go, most definitely.
You don't have to have a space shuttle to 3D auto print. You can just have your little, yeah.
Well, but here's the other thing, too, though. You would need, obviously, the old part in order to scan and duplicate.
Yep, for the prototype.
Right, it can't be missing, yeah.
Anything can be done. But yeah, definitely 3D printing. It still has a ways to go in development. But it's fantastic.
All right, Ken, now. Listen, I've got to get Judy Ann on. I want you to hold. You guys, Ken's going to hold for us. I'm going to bring Judy Ann Deaton, her very first time restoring this project on this 51 Packard. Judy Ann, are you there?
I am.
Girl, I'm thanking you, Buku, because we had some phone concerns. We couldn't get two lines in at once, so thank you for that. Man, tell us on this 51 Packard. I mean, is this something you eyeballed for a long time, or how did you acquire something like this?
Well, actually, it was one of the volunteer groups I belong to. A woman approached me, knows I hang out with car guys and car clubs, and so she sent me an email about Patty and
Patty, I like that.
asked me if I wanted to, if I would show it to people that I knew, because it was her mother's in Nebraska and they were selling it. So as soon as I opened it and started looking through the pictures, I'm like, I kind of want this car.
Good for you.
So you obviously, the eye was there, the twinkle was there. You probably named it before you even got it, kind of thing. What was the next step for you?
Well, the next step was I was, in this time of COVID, I was waiting on banks to clear checks and things like that. So that was probably the biggest thing. And then having a auto transport, which we used Pilot Transport. They're the best, actually. They brought her in her own truck. She wasn't in there with any other car, and they were
little solo ride. Little solo ride.
Patty cake.
Patty cake with solo across the country from Nebraska. I like that. That was, yeah.
So that was it, and they had really great drivers. They called, when they were really like a day out, and they made appointments to come bring her here. They did that in Nebraska to pick her up, and they did that here. And then we got her, and the only thing is like you said, look at things before you buy it. They were not car people, so they thought that, she could just a few simple things would get her started, and that we could get all the corrosion off the chrome, which obviously we can't unless we re-chrome stuff. And we just want to enjoy her. So that quote of 6 figures was really about restoring her all the way completely. And we just like that she's a survivor, and she has, like us, she has wrinkles and scars, and that's
well, I think that's what makes it special, and especially for folks that are tuning in. You guys know, I mean, we see stuff on TV and it's like, first off, our dream is crushed because it's like buku expensive. Mm-hmm. And what I got excited about this, Judy Ann, is that you eyed the vehicle. You said, I'm going to have this vehicle. And yeah, you got a 6-figure estimate for full-on bumper-to-bumper restoration. You took it over to Ken, and that's where the magic started happening because you said, let's make it reliable. So tell us about that. Are you changing the interior? Give us an idea what you want to put your touch on with this.
Well, there was quite a lot of mold in her, and we had kind of a trouble getting an ozone generator, but my boyfriend is a detailer, so he details cars here, and we called a few places that were willing to ship to California and asked them, told them we have a detail shop and we're restoring this car, so we were able to get an ozone generator. And that really helped with cleaning her out. But what we're trying to do on the inside really is just, we've taken the back seat out. We found out where some of the smells were. She was clearly enjoyed by the animals that were in Nebraska.
Well, that's the case. It was sitting up in a cornfield somewhere. I mean, that's to be expected. But I think it was worse than it was you just need a little elbow grease, a little ozonator, and you were in there, and that was that.
Right. Yeah, so she's, we're keeping the seats and everything. What we're doing, we did rip out the carpet. So we're just getting some new carpet in there and just really giving a good scrub on everything that's inside. And hopefully she will clean up nicely. But the seats are in great condition. They just really need to be cleaned. We did do a carpet and upholstery cleaning, but it didn't do the job that the ozone generator did.
Yeah,
I love that ozone.
Yeah, we don't we have something? We have something like that.
Uh-huh.
We had to get a COVID sprayer for every day. Twice a day we're spraying stuff down.
That's
with a
right.
COVID ozonator, electrostatic.
That's right.
But it didn't sound. Let me ask you this, because some folks may relate to this. How did you feel after that 6-figure quote? I mean, did you just say, "I'm going to give up on this thing"? I mean, what was your feeling after that?
No, not at all. I knew he was high end, and he wanted to basically take every part out and recoat it. So it wasn't going to be any of it might have been some of the original parts, but they were going to be completely redone. And we just really want her to run. We don't care if she has rust, and we don't, the patina's nice, and she still has her midnight blue color, and, we just really wanted her to run. So I wasn't really disappointed. I knew Packards were really hard to get, anything for. So, and And I know that Ken has done other projects. He's brought other projects that I've seen, like the Pony Boy Mustang. So
Yeah, we've seen that. In fact, I was out recently. We were doing some work with Chevron Techron, doing some film work, and Ken came out to meet with us, and he had that Mustang. It was beautiful, and he drove it. He drove it from Huntington Beach all the way up to where we were up in Claremont. And that wasn't a trailer queen. I mean, he's he's made it. It's